Ntutugo Mkomboti. Good evening, Ntutugo, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, Ntutugo, how many institutions have answered the call for a national shutdown tomorrow?
Well, we're very confident that tomorrow we're going to be having the majority of the institutions joining us. Already tonight, there's been responses in the University of the Free State, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. They've started the demonstrations already, hitting the call as early as tonight. But tomorrow we are expecting at least not less than 15 of the universities to be on protest about these issues.
Now, has SASCO clarified its position on the 6%?
Well, we've just released a statement, and what we are saying is that we need to be very cautious about this 6%. Firstly, what the point we are raising is that this still needs to be rectified by councils of universities. Councils still have to take a decision, and they can take a decision that is different from what has been explained here already. But secondly, we think that we need to still engage students, because our view is that the current funding framework is still very expensive. So if you're adding another 6%, the assumption is that we're going to have more money as students to pay for that, and we don't have that money.
Now, Ntutugo, with regards to the minister's announcement and the fact that university councils still have to ratify the decision, the capping of university fees, how do the students feel about this, and will it end the protest with regards to the fees? Well,
tomorrow we are proceeding with the protest. Students are very clear that tomorrow we are proceeding with the protest. Of course, we do acknowledge that there's been a step, especially because government is going to be fitting the bill of this, because universities are going to present to government that, look, if we are going to have to be below 6%, it means basically we are going to have this cost structure, and then government must pay for that. But as students, we are saying there's intervention that is happening, but it's not enough. And we also think that there's a silent party in all of this, which is the private sector, and they've said absolutely nothing about this. And this is not just directed only at government, in as much as we're putting pressure on government and the universities, but also saying the private sector must also play a role in this issue.
Now, you say that there are going to be 15 institutions, tertiary institutions, involved with protests from tomorrow. And you can see that this is gathered and snowballed across the country. Can you give us an update on what has happened to the arrested students at UCT?
Yes, well, with the arrested students at UCT, we were able to receive assistance to get a lawyer in the Western Cape, and those students have been released, at UCT. But what we're concerned about is what we've seen, even at Stellenbosch. There's serious police heavy-handedness from the police, and the university is going to court to get interdicts to prevent us from protesting. There are two things that happen when you do this. One, you really want, it's an attempt to silence the student vote, but secondly, it precipitates this violence that sometimes we see, which is unfortunate, and we condemn it even now, because students now fear to protest, and then they have to use other ways and forms of protest, sometimes burning buildings and so on, because they're not allowed to gather. Like, we're seeing at least at Vets, students are being allowed together, and there's no interdict. And if universities allow that situation, would have less violence, would be talking less about violence and talking more about the real issues that are facing us.
Now, are the universities not within their rights to get interdicts like these to protect themselves as institutions?
Protect themselves from who? From students. These are our universities. That's a problem. That's a logic we're always raising. Because universities always, when they write a notice, they say on behalf of the university. Who is the university? Because there is no university without us as students, and we need to be given our democratic right to protest. That's a democratically enshrined right. And vice chancellors must not act as if they are, quasi Bantustan leaders who can just dictate upon our institutions. These are democratic spaces. We fought for these universities to be democratic. We need to be allowed to express ourselves freely, so that we don't want to burn our property. This is property that is going to service us as students, and we really don't want to do that. And we say to students even now that we don't want even a single door or a single window to be broken. We want to be allowed to protest.
Now, the students have been mobilizing social media very effectively to tell the story, and telling us about how the protest is unfolding. Is the media doing its bit to share the facts?
Well, I think we are using, students are using a lot of social media, and I've seen now many students sharing their stories on social media, and you know, we've seen the media all over our institutions. But one of the things we're raising about the media is that sometimes it's really skewed towards your more middle class and affluent universities or historically white universities, because these are struggles that have been happening all over the country throughout other institutions. I mean, UK didn't just had a strike, TUT and others, but there was not so much media coverage. But what we are saying is that right now we have a lot of media coverage across the board, and we as students are really taking this you know, to the next level, because we believe that it's really a revolutionary moment that we need to capture to advance our struggle and to really push forward so that the powers that be respond and we really do get what we want to get. And we believe that we are very close. With this announcement now, we think that we can push forward and we can really get what we want.
Now, Ntutugo, has SASCO as an organization come up with alternative funding models?
Yes, we have. I mean, we've been raising these issues for some time. One of the things that we have raised, and we're happy that you know, Professor Piketty was invited to South Africa, for example, because this is a matter that he raises about wealth taxes. It's SASCO's policy position for some time about how do we have a corporate taxation for free education, but also how do we have you know, a wealth tax, a progressive taxation for the upper echelons of our society. But secondly, you have the Skills and Skills Development Levy Act, which now we get 1% from all companies for skills. But we are saying we could increase that to really get more money to ring fence it for free, for education, and for free education in particular. But government also, there's a lot of wasteful expenditure that is happening in government, a lot of corruption and a lot of money going aside, but also a lot of infrastructure and good investment projects. But can we start looking at education and higher education as an investment rather than just an expenditure burden that we always have to talk about? There's no money, but if we want to put a trillion to infrastructure, we can do that. If we're going to invest so much in education, in higher education, we're going to grow the economy of South Africa, because we're building the human capital of our country. We are ensuring that you know, because students, if they graduate, they have a better chance at employment, even though we have got such large unemployed graduates, but they have a better chance of at employment, but also they have a greater chance of creating their own employment. So we're saying students must be given an opportunity, and we look at this as an investment.
Okay, and finally, very briefly, Ntutugo, the call for a national shutdown, how realistic is it for tomorrow? Well,
it's very realistic. I mean, we're seeing a number of institutions already joining us as now. We've had a number of mass meetings today across institutions of higher learning. Tomorrow, we are happy that the minimum we're putting is 15 institutions. We will be shut down tomorrow, but we're very optimistic that we're going to get much more institutions shutting down.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. That was Ntutugo Mkomboti, the president of SASCO, joining us in studio. Thank you for bringing us this update.
Thank you so much for having me.